is Sarah Sze, and made a piece for the museum called Those That Are Tame, and it runs along the hallway here. I wanted it to be a piece that you discovered in the museum, something that was found, not presented to you in a museum, in a traditional museum space. And it's a very site-specific piece. It's in a location that perhaps you've never seen a piece before. It's along the hallway, and it addresses a kind of walkway, as well as the intersection of the outside and the inside along the window.
This exhibition and theme is a transformation, and for you, what means transformation? Does.
So in this piece specifically, I was thinking about, a site where your whole experience of a location is transformed, so that when you get to that space, it's a place you don't expect to see work, and your relationship to that site becomes different because you find an artwork there. The thing that I really liked about the space, after looking at all the spaces in the museum, was that it's a journey. It's a route, so it actually has this sort of beginning and end, and you visually read it along, a traverse. So as you walk along, you start to read a different kind of vocabulary, and that vocabulary changes or shows up or reappears as you move through this length, this space. So there's a kind of transformation in the materials that they kind of, we had talked about a kind of cellular growth, the kind of growth where you start to see forms develop, breed, die, grow, and I think that's a lot of the ideas in these kind of, there's 3 sections to the piece, 3 phases. So in my mind, in each phase, there's a different kind of activity in terms of growth and transformation.
Because that's I think since your partner is like a scientist, also kind of medical scientist, also, and you must have some kind of ideas and biotechnology something. So and is there also something very interesting kind of issue and for your personal research at this moment?
So I was thinking about the whole piece in some ways like an experiment. This idea of transformation and experiment, that an experiment is always it always starts with a question and an examination of how that question transforms in time. So the way I sort of set the piece up even feels to me like an experiment, like a live experiment. So when you go and you almost you feel like the piece was made on the site, and it was, but you feel like each decision was sort of made in an experimental way. And I wanted to think of this idea with an experiment. There's always this, again, this idea of growth, or the kind of cellular growth even, a kind of proliferation of something and then a dying out of something at the same time. And that an experiment is always, a good experiment is always on the edge of failure. So to have a piece that felt like, it was just barely there, and you didn't really know how it was going to exist, that would be sort of swept up. So there are a lot of materials in it that are very ephemeral, that have a kind of breeding in terms of you could blow on them and they would disappear or they would spread. So it has this kind of quality of something that spreads or breeds in the space, so like something that starts very small and has a breeding quality to it. So the piece is very small, but it's actually extremely long. So it's probably the longest piece in the show. And this
the last question, yeah. Because the last question is, since this exhibition theme is transformation, especially related to the bodies, and what you're thinking about your bodies and physical states. So, and if you have second life, what you want to be transformed? What kind of states? It's not second life after.
It's a good question.
Yes.
Can I answer in 2 ways? The first part, I think it's interesting because I think in my work, the transformation is about an interior kind of transformation in terms of the body. It's this idea of how your body transforms from the interior and not the exterior. And I think a lot of the other work has a more exterior quality to it. But if I was going to transform in another life, I think I would be a dog.
Why?
I don't know, because that's probably the animal that I have the closest relationship to. And so I think that's probably, it's the most real relationship that I could imagine. And I was just reading about that there was this, an emperor in Japan that had this, is a famous story, right? That about the dogs, and he created all these dog shelters, and so that's on my mind.
And the last question is there different any kind of message to the audience who is coming to see the exhibition?
Is
if
there
you
a
have
message
any
to
kind
the
of
audience?
message, from the other artists?
I think, from the other artist, or
No,
just for me?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that for me, what's interesting about the piece is this idea that transformation, or then artwork, can be discovered or found in the most unlikely places.
Thank you very much.
Sure.